Greetings, cinephiles. Are you looking for a movie analysis podcast that stands above the rest? Then look no further than Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters.
We analyze good movies, we analyze bad movies, and yes, we also analyze the in-betweens of the world of cinema.
So if you like what you hear, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
And yes, my friends, we are 420 friendly. So when you listen to us, smoke it if you've got it. And now, here's a new episode of Collateral Gaming. The show starts right now.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Zachary Gio.
And this is Collateral Gaming.
Welcome back to Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are coming back at you with part 2 of our Super Metroid special, which is really exciting considering that Super Metroid is probably one of the best entries in the series, and shooting the shit today about the story is something I've been looking forward to for a while, and so I'm happy to be back in this shit, because we talked about, like gameplay and items and stuff like that, but the story of Super Metroid is probably one that marked the importance of the series in a big way. There was a huge event that happens towards the end of the story that really kind of gave you a deeper dive into Samus's character and everything that she's done up to this point in her career with the Galactic Federation. And to be honest, talking about it with you is something I've been looking forward to for a long time, especially since Super Metroid is the first Metroid game in the series that I did not beat as a child. I actually didn't beat it for the first time until I was finished with college.
Yeah.
So
I also only beat it recently, and I think I mentioned that last time, but yeah, welcome back, guys, part 2. And yes, my friends, this is a 420 friendly podcast, so smoke it if you've got it. Unless you're me and you're abstaining for the moment because you're wanting to get some shit done and also, take a tea break and shit. So that's all well and good. We're still going to have a great episode.
Oh, yeah.
Podcasting from across the United States and all that jazz. But yeah, man, I am super excited to be talking more Super Metroid with you.
Hell yeah.
Like you, this was pretty much the only Metroid game that I had left that I had not completed. And no, Federation Force does not count.
No, it does not.
Also, I have not beat Nestroid, but...
Yeah, you got to get on that, brother. Metroid is a great time, and I can say that because I actually recently beat it earlier this year, helping the Omega Metroid podcast with their walkthrough.
Word.
So it was really fun.
Yeah, man. I remember that. And recently we had even more Metroid related stuff. We were doing that speed run of. Well, I guess not much of a speed run, but just a randomizer run of Metroid Fusion. I remember.
Oh yeah, that was a great time.
It was a great time, man. We actually really had fun there, and I missed that last stream, but I'd like to do something with you again, and maybe start. I'd mentioned this before, but like a Metroid Monday series on Collateral Let's Play. Just
sounds good to me.
Just an idea, although we are still kind of working through the backlog. Apologies, this is very late. This episode should have been out in January, I think. So whatever. We'll get through everything. Here it is, March 1st, and we'll get through our February content and get back on track here very soon. We're likely going to have another Metroid release this year too. So this is going to be a good year, man.
I think we're going to have 2 Metroid releases this year. I'm going to be honest. I think Mercury Steam is holding out, and they've got Metroid 6 ready to go.
Ooh.
Honestly, either that, or we're going to get a remake of Fusion, which would be sick, because I know Mercury Steam has been talking about that. And honestly, it's one of those titles in the series that desperately deserves a remake.
Yeah, I mean,
You've got
years ago,
you've got Metroid Zero Mission already. So
yeah, years ago, you and I actually talked about doing a Metroid Fusion remake on our own. We thought we might try to code it together, and then we kind of abandoned the project. But
yeah, there was no way we were going to make that happen without getting at least a cease and desist.
yeah, true. Honestly, I think a Super Metroid remake is due. I mean, that's kind of the one that's next on the list. But speaking of Super Metroid, that's what we're talking about here today. And we kind of went through most of the gameplay shit last time, so we'll focus on the story, like as you mentioned earlier, Zach. One thing I do appreciate about the 2D Metroid games is that they do tell a continuous story. I mean, starting in Metroid 1 is Samus's visit to Zebes, eliminating the Metroids on the planet and destroying the space pirate base. Following that, we have Metroid 2. Technically, the Prime series takes place in between those, but it's its own subplot. But Metroid 2 picks up after that, where Samus is tasked with eliminating all of the Metroids from their home planet, SR388. And then, at the end of which, Samus ends up sparing the last baby Metroid, which imprints on her. That sets the stage for Super Metroid. This picks up right where Metroid 2 left off. Samus has decided to take the last baby Metroid. The last Metroid is in captivity, as they say, and give it to the scientists at the Ceres space station to study its energy producing qualities, and that's where the stage is set, right?
Yes, sir.
And I like how this game opens, again, connecting back to that last adventure. This is something that Metroid does really well. I mean, a lot of the Zelda games, for instance, are very disconnected. Mario doesn't even have a timeline. So,
oh, dude, Zelda's timeline was created solely to make people happy and to shut them up. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but there's not really any continuity in it, minus a few titles that have sequels like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. And then you've got games like Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, which are specifically tied into one another, and it's said that A Link to the Past takes place before Zelda 1. It's just yada yada yada, all that stuff.
Yeah, we've gone through it all before.
Metroid is the only IP that Nintendo seems to actually give a shit about the quality of the story.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even after this, Metroid Fusion would go on to pick up after Super Metroid and continue the storyline and dealing with the after effects of what happened with the titular Super Metroid. Metroid Dread picks up after that. They would go and do Metroid Other Rim as a kind of interquel between Super and Fusion, but I feel like it should just be erased from the canon. It's so unnecessary.
Well, sadly, I don't think we're ever going to get that. But, oh well.
Sakamoto, what were you thinking? Because this game is a banger. By the way, I think last time I said that this was Sakamoto's first game. That's not quite true. This was the first game where he worked as the director. But he actually was a designer on the original Metroid. So, but here he's taken over the director role for the first time, and I mean, this is why people were so disappointed by what we got from Sakamoto with Other M, because I mean, this game is phenomenal under his direction. We talked a lot about it in part 1 about just how influential this game is, and one of the ways in which it accomplishes that is the story. And at first glance, this game may not seem to have much of a story, but as mentioned, we start with our intro, which we'll get into a little bit, and the rest of it is a lot of environmental storytelling, and then of course that beautiful emotional finale.
Oh, dude. Honestly, I think that Super Metroid has probably one of the best final sequences in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's mostly cinematic and whatnot, but the way that the story is told is so good.
Yeah.
And it actually, and one thing Other M did right was present the end of Super Metroid. So technically, you could say that Other M is Metroid 4 and Fusion is Metroid 5.
Yeah. But they're actually called Dread Metroid 5, so I guess they just dropped Other M out of the numbering sequence. I don't know.
I guess, but that's a whole issue in and of itself. Dread did not feel like Metroid 5. It felt like Metroid 2.5 with X parasites.
True.
It felt like they were taking notes more from Samus Returns than they were, Fusion.
Well, it does pick up after Fusion and incorporate some of that stuff, like with the X parasites and whatnot. But with Super Metroid, I really like how we pick up with that intro. You get that nice little voice dialogue that we don't hear in any of these other early games, and then Samus explains that there is a distress signal at the Ceres space station where that baby Metroid has been kept in captivity. So I really like the way that the atmosphere opens up. I mean, that intro sequence is not meant to really challenge you in any way. It's,
it's just kind of meant to establish where the game's going to go.
Yeah, it establishes the aesthetic. It establishes the atmosphere, actually, is what I'm trying to say. I like how it doesn't even really have kind of a background theme during that section. It's more just ambient noise, driving home the point that something just went down at this station. You come down the shaft, walk into the laboratory, the scientists are dead on the floor. Familiarize yourself with the controls here, right? And then you walk into the room and get your first pseudo boss battle against Ridley. I feel like that battle is intended to trigger a number of ways. Like, I know, like, it seems like if Ridley damages you enough, he'll just go away. I imagine if you damage him enough, he'll also go away. It's not too difficult. You don't have a lot of weapons on you at the time. I think I mentioned last time that if they ever do a remake of this game, that would actually be a perfect opportunity to have Samus at full power, and then have the space station kind of like have some shit blow up and she loses all her powers, a la Prime. But
if you really think about it, I like how they did it in Super Metroid because they didn't have an accident take place that actually siphoned all of her powers. She just kind of didn't have them.
It was kind of a hand wave moment. It was one of those moments in early gaming where you kind of just had to hand wave it.
Yep.
Samus doesn't have her powers when she starts out, and it wasn't a big deal. Nobody really made too big of a fuss about it back in the day. It was just a video game. Prime kind of established the whole let's make a reason why she's powerless. But
Metroid Prime, so good. I was telling you before we started that I beat Metroid Prime Remastered again this morning.
Yeah.
And it still holds up as my favorite game of all time. And I have to honestly thank Super for the level of isolation and sheer. Like, the first time you play through Super and Metroid Prime, there's a fear that takes place. And Super Metroid did a really good job of establishing how good Samus is just on her own.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we didn't really know much about Samus when Metroid 1 and 2 came out. She was just this mysterious bounty hunter, but Super Metroid really established who she was and what her place in the world was, or the universe, I should say, not world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it opens up in a way just really brilliant. Like I said, just atmosphere. Why I really like when you get into the Ridley room, at first you just see the baby Metroid on the floor, and then Ridley just kind of appears from the background, and it's really cool. It's a really neat moment to introduce this antagonist, and it's obvious that Super Metroid, as Metroid 3, was catering to players of the previous two games. That appearance of Ridley is sure to excite some who had played the original Nestroid, because originally he was not in Metroid 2, he was missing. So bringing that fucker back was probably a surprise, because you're like, didn't I kill this bastard before?
he was missing, but he's not missing in Metroid 2 anymore, because when Mercury Steam released Samus Returns, they kind of brought him back as Proteus Ridley, which was a really good fight, but honestly didn't really make sense.
Some people felt it was unnecessary. I think it helps out, I guess, a little bit of continuity. I don't I appreciate that there is an additional fight now after the escape sequence that after the Metroid Queen, which was cool. Just a little bonus, and you might as well make it Ridley. That's one of the only games he was absent from.
Well, I guess now thinking about it, it does kind of add to the context of him being at the Ceres space station, because he had probably been tracking Samus since she defeated him on Zebes. Or sorry, SR388.
Fair, yeah, true.
So it actually makes a lot more sense now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So she drops the Metroid off, then he pops in. She gets the distress signal. She pops back. I imagine there's not a lot of time that has passed. But yeah, Ridley comes and steals the baby Metroid. This is where the game relies on environmental storytelling from here on, because you get that opening text crawl, but after that, there's no dialogue, no monologues, no text. It is what you see on screen is what you get. So, and it's very simple. It's very obvious what your goal is here. Ridley is taking the baby Metroid. He flies into Zebes, and Samus follows. And this was really cool. I thought it was bold of this game to actually return to Zebes, the setting of the first game. I feel like a lot of other games would have just, added a whole new planet now. But no, Super Metroid said, let's revisit Zebes in 16-bit.
And make it a little bit more of a planet by expanding the areas that you visit, like the wrecked ship and Meridia. And honestly, they redid certain assets of certain areas of the world. Like Torian is no longer this super creepy area where it's nothing but Metroids. It's pretty much, there are some there, but most of it has been just laid to waste by the baby.
Yeah.
Oh, God, the baby.
So when you arrive at Zebes for the first time, you're actually getting to see the surface of the planet, something that was missing at the beginning of the original Metroid. You start already below the surface in Brinstar. Here we start in Criteria on the surface of the planet, which is a nice touch. It definitely expands the journey a little bit more, and ultimately you are making your way back down to the very first section of Metroid. It's a nice callback. You come down and you see the same area you were in before. You immediately know, if you've played Metroid or Zero Mission, hey, there's the morph ball over there to the right. You're going to check there, right? And you get the morph ball. Or they call it the morphing ball in this game. But that's still your first power up. I really like that callback, but there's a twist here. There's a little eye camera thing that scans you. So that's your first sign that something is afoot here. And up to that point, as you make your way down to Brinstar, you actually work your way through the original Torian, which has been destroyed, the site of Mother Brain, and it's just in ruins. There's no enemies, so it's very quiet. It's kind of building up that anticipation. But you get the morphing ball, you work your way over, collect some you might be tempted to work your way to the right like you do in the original Metroid, but you're going to find that there's a stopping point there. And then you think, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's backtrack back. And that's where the typical Metroidvania formula hits. And you make your way back up to Criteria using the morph ball and the missiles that you now have. You get the bombs. There's that surprise boss fight with the Chozo statue, which was really cool.
Oh, what is the name of that?
Torizo, I think?
Like chorizo.
Not chorizo, Torizo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's quite a surprise, actually. You're used to picking up the items from those statues, but this one, gets up and fights you, which was cool. And I believe that was actually a boss fight that was not spoiled by the manual, so it was going to be a surprise for anybody hopping into the game. Just lots of little surprises like that. That's how this game tells its story, and again, you're already getting a lot of context if you're just paying attention and you've played through the other games, because here is the same Brinstar where you were before, but in the state that we saw it after Super Metroid. But once you come back up, that's when the space pirates come in. They're chumps at first. You can hit them with a single shot. I do like how, as the game progresses, the space pirates tend to seem to adapt to Samus's weaponry, requiring more and more powerful weapons to defeat.
Which makes them to be more than just brain dead pirates that just go and steal and kill just because that's all they're good for. You actually see some strategy and focus and game plan from them, which gives their character a little bit more depth. Because I like to look at the space pirates as an entire character rather than just each individual pirate, because obviously they're led by their enforcer, Ridley. And Ridley and Samus go way back, because Ridley was the reason that Samus's parents died on K2L.
Yes.
So there's depth to these characters, and I like how Super Metroid kind of establishes that instead of just letting it sit. Kind of like we didn't really see space pirates in the first Metroid game.
No,
but it was still cool.
I think this is where they first appear. They're mentioned in the backstory of the original Metroid, but you don't really see them. You just fight the space pirate generals, Ridley, Kraid, the leader, which was the Chozo rogue AI Mother Brain. But yeah, you don't actually see the foot soldiers in the first game. This is I believe the first time that they actually appear. And yeah, I like how they get more powerful as the story progresses. Again, it's a little touch that you'll notice, and this is a behavior you'll see from space pirates later, where they just adapt to Samus's weaponry and become more and more powerful, requiring more powerful weapons to beat. Again, it's just a small little detail that players are going to pick up on. What you'll also pick up on are some of the differences. The space pirates have rebuilt their base on Zebes, so even though the original Torian was destroyed, there's a whole new Torian section, as you mentioned before, that you'll get through at the end, and you'll see some familiar faces like Kraid and Ridley, as we mentioned before, some new faces like Fantoon and Dragon. And yeah, one thing you'll notice too is you'll have the security cameras. You'll work your way through an area Brinstar that you had never seen before, that's overgrown with vegetation. So we're seeing life return to the planet Zebes.
Yep.
Which is
really cool.
Ironic, considering this is the entire planet is destroyed at the end of this one.
Yeah, which kind of sucks, but I get it. It's at this point where that if Samus is visiting a planet, chances are it's either going to be destroyed or completely healed.
Yeah.
Nothing in between.
Exactly. That's kind of a recurring pattern, right? Because SR388 shows up in Metroid 2, and then it plays a small part in Fusion and gets destroyed at the end of that game as well. So it was a really fun little detail, and then the first game, the escape sequence happens as the space pirate base is blowing up, but in this game it is the entire planet. I don't know what kind of technology exists here that can just destroy the entire planet, but hey,
I think after the pirates lost Zebes the first time, I think they put a contingency plan in place where if Samus ever takes it over again, they're just going to let it go completely.
Yeah.
So that would make sense to me.
Yeah. Or last-ditch effort by Mother Brain, in order to destroy her, perhaps.
Yeah, but let's be honest. They knew they weren't going to be able to kill her.
Right? The Hunter.
You just got the Hunter, dude.
And I guess from the space pirates' point of view, this is where she's starting to kind of make a name for herself. She's already thwarted them once on Zebes, and here is the second time where she's going to fight these motherfuckers. And it's really satisfying to build up Samus's weapons and her items and abilities, and just become more powerful, become a complete powerhouse. We mentioned a lot of the new items that you get in this game that would become staples.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like the speed booster.
The space jump. Well, no, the space jump was in Metroid 2, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah. But, the speed booster and, the This game is the first one with super missiles, I believe, or
Yes, and I'm actually a little miffed that they didn't put the spider ball in Super Metroid. That would have been
I
a really cool
know
power up to have.
that's such a cool ability.
I'm not sure why they didn't do that. I'm guessing they didn't like the way it worked in Metroid 2 and they didn't bring it back. But I'm glad that they brought it back for Metroid Prime because, oh god, it's so good in Metroid Prime.
Oh yeah. The spider ball is a lot of fun, and there's lots of other abilities. I mean, we talked about all of the items, I think, in our last section, but yeah, part of the storytelling here is just Samus getting more powerful, and this is where the game starts to open up, right? As you kind of work your way through Brinstar, through Norfair, pick up some stuff, fight Kraid. Kraid is a big motherfucker this time. In the original Metroid,
Oh, dude, looks so good too, so menacing and ominous.
the original Metroid, he was tiny, and there's a tiny version of him that you fight that's just a decoy, kind of a fake out, and then this massive motherfucker comes. Now they did retcon that because they did retcon his size because in Metroid Zero Mission he's big again, so kind of answers some questions people might have had about how he got so big between the two games. Well, I guess canonically he was always big.
Well, I think my favorite Kraid encounter in the series is definitely Dread.
Oh, the dread fight is awesome. That is a really, really fun sequence.
It doesn't make sense, but it's really good.
Yeah. And the Kraid fight in this game is a lot of fun. Again, this is where you're going to start to see some familiar faces, but
There are speedrunners that can beat Kraid in like half a second, dude. It's crazy. They just unload missiles and beam shots all at once because of like heavy inputs, and he's just dead immediately.
yeah, he's not that difficult. He's the first major boss that you fight in this one. So, I never had too much difficulty with Kraid. Once you pick up those super missiles, he's not that hard. You can, through some sequence breaking, fight Kraid before you get some items that are going to help with that fight. I believe you can. I think normally you get the various suit before you fight him, and
Right before, yeah.
and you can fight him without that, and give yourself a little edge through some sequence breaking, or give yourself a little bit of a challenge.
I was going to say edge. Where's the edge, brother?
Yeah, no, the opposite. He's got the edge on you. He's edging you.
Yeah. Pause. So, but yeah, like Super did a really good job of creating a menacing presence from enemies. The Super Nintendo had a good bit more power than, honestly, it's going to be a lot like the Switch 2 compared to the Switch. The Super Nintendo had a lot more processing power than the NES, and they did not hesitate to show it off.
No, this game I think uses the Super Nintendo to its fullest capacity, and I believe we mentioned that before. But I mean, this is one of the better looking and playing games on the console. It is great. I mean, as mentioned,
That and A Link to the Past.
yeah, A Link to the Past as well. And these games are often played together in randomizers. I know there's I know there's at least one randomizer that actually has you switch between both games, picking up items.
Yeah, they actually did that. They actually did that on the Omega Metroid Marathon. It was really cool. They made zero progress at all, but
Maybe I did hear it from you, and that was where I heard about that. But yeah, I thought that was a neat concept. These two games, honestly, A Link to the Past and Super Metroid are the ones that really defined the Super Nintendo generation, and it's kind of a shame because they're the two of the two games of the game of each respective series that I've taken the longest to complete. I actually have not completed A Link to the Past. It is the biggest hole in my Zelda.
what?
I've played through quite a bit of it, but I've never beat it. It was the same with Super Metroid for years.
Bro, you need to finish A Link to the Past. It's
I know.
so good. The ending is so hard.
I know we're gonna have to do it on the podcast or something, and that'll be my chance to finally actually beat the thing. I feel like a failure as a Zelda fan that for some reason the both of the Super Nintendo games I just never completed all the way through. There's no particular reason for that. I think I just got busy with both things. I got busy with other things in both cases, but Yeah, I got to get on that.
Well, yeah, you do, man. Because, bro, A Link to the Past is an incredible game.
It is. I mean, I've played quite a bit of it. I just, I mean, in Super Metroid, I had played all the way to, just finishing up item collection, and that's where I fell off. In that case, I think it was just that it was a little bit of a hassle for me to pick up those last few items, and I put it off and then never came back to it. Now I've played through the game 100% twice. Have still not managed to complete a playthrough in 3 hours. Why are there balloons on my screen? What the fuck? That was weird.
I don't know. Oh, you got to leave this in. That's funny. Why are there balloons on my screen? What the fuck?
I know they just like popped it in Discord. I don't know what gesture I did that triggered those, but
I'll pop you in Discord.
Ooh. And
これがメトロイド。
まだ幼虫だ。しかしこのエネルギーは人類の役に立つかもしれん。あ、ヘビーメトロイドが奪われる。
緊急指令。スペースハンターサムス・アラン。さらわれたベビーメトロイドを奪い返す。
スーパーファミコンソフト、スーパーメトロイド。とてつもない地下要塞が待ち受けている。
Before Nintendo came out with Super Metroid, we wanted to make sure it was the most intense Metroid battle ever. So we thought we'd see how Killer here would fare against it. Ready, boy? That's 24 megs worth of weapons, worlds, and weirdos old Killer's up against. Nintendo's biggest game ever. But he's a big boy. He can handle it. Well, let's see how he did. Ship it! Super Metroid, only on the Super NES.
But yeah, I mean, this game uses the Super Nintendo to its fullest extent to tell its story. Again, environmental storytelling is really the key here. You'll work your way through each of the areas, and as you mentioned before, some of the new sections that they've added are really fun. We talked about the wreck ship before. That's a favorite for a lot of players because it's just a whole different atmosphere.
It's really creepy. The power's out because Fantoon is essentially siphoning it for his power. And then once you defeat him, the wreck ship gets its power back. But Fantoon's one of the best fights in the game. It's fantastic.
I imagine that was very difficult for players playing this the first time because you don't have a save station in the wreck ship that you can use. You have to save right before. So if you lose against Fantoon, you got to start all the way from whatever the last save station that you saved at was. Now, I've always played this game with save states, so I never had that issue. But I imagine that might have been very frustrating because Fantoon is kind of a wall in this game. He's one of the first bosses.
Dude, he's difficult.
That actually is very difficult, mainly because his attacks are really hard to dodge, and you've really got to get the timing down to even hit this motherfucker.
Yes, you do. And realistically, because he's phasing in and out of reality and constantly shooting blue flames at you, it's really hard to land a successful shot unless you've just fought him many times and you understand how his character works.
Yeah.
But people who are playing through the game the first time, you're gonna die at least once or twice fighting Fantoon. It's just some of the boss fights in this game are relentless.
And I imagine that Fantoon is associated with the Space Pirates in some way because he's one of the statues that you have to you have to fight him as a boss to clear his statue. So I'm assuming he's associated with the Space Pirates in some way, but they never really get into what Fantoon actually is, or even what the wrecked ship is. There's been a lot of theories as to the lore surrounding that. I watched one YouTube video that made a compelling argument that that was originally a Chozo ship, and I think that makes the most sense because there is a Chozo statue in the ship. By the way, the wrecked ship is not the ship that you play through in Zero Mission. That's a whole different thing. I know that had the same robots on it or whatever. Maybe that was also a Chozo ship that the Space Pirates commandeered, or maybe those robots were just standard issue on those kinds of ships. But there actually is a small section of the wrecked ship in Zero Mission. It's kind of a blink and you miss it. area. But it seems to me that in between Zero Mission and Super Metroid, the space pirates unearthed this ancient Chozo ship, and it was taken over by Fantoon and these ghosts. We talked about them last time, but the ghosts are a fun little aspect of what was otherwise a sci-fi game, and there's probably some kind of explanation that you could make for them that fits into the sci-fi setting. You know, like they're not actually like ghosts, but like you mentioned, like some kind of creatures from another dimension or whatnot. That's what I would kind of look at them. But that's what's kind of cool about Super Metroid is it doesn't tell you everything. You just, and this applies to a lot of Metroid games actually, but it just gives you these areas and kind of lets you figure some stuff out yourself, leave some stuff ambiguous, you know, so you can make your own headcanon. That's really fun.
Yeah, and it's really cool that they don't give you all the pieces to the puzzle. That way, it still makes sense like years down the road. Like, we're still talking about Super Metroid as one of the most influential games in the series, if not the most influential game in the series. And it's because they left things to be explained. They left explanations to be desired, and I think that's how you do it to keep the mystery alive in titles like this. And I really hope that Prime 4 and Metroid 6 do the same thing, where they give us a lot of lore and a lot of story, but leave so much to be desired so that we can speculate and think about what's coming next instead of knowing everything and then being disappointed when something specific's not there. Yeah. They can play with those ideas and make them that much more special.
Hell, the Metroid games never really even give you Samus's backstory. That's information that you can find if you read the Metroid manga, which actually is canon to the games.
Well, they actually give you a good bit of her backstory in Other M, and I don't hate that because it is. I don't hate her backstory in Other M because, I mean, it shows what she was like in her adolescence, and I've always appreciated that.
The backstory in Other M was good. It was just the characterization of Samus in the present that I had a big problem with, and also Adam, who was made out to be this, like, you know, hero, and the way he's written, he's actually kind of an asshole. It was a letdown.
You don't move unless I say so. Yeah, you don't fire unless I say so. So dumb.
Yeah, and Samus, you're gonna have to run through this super hot area, and you know, you're not authorized to use the various suit. And in all likelihood, he probably just expected that she would turn it on because there's no reason for her to turn damage reduction off for herself. So he probably was like, why the fuck are you running through the super hot area? Just turn on the various suit already.
Yep. Makes no sense. He's like, okay, I guess I do have to tell her to do this shit.
Right?
Which makes no sense because Samus is a brilliant warrior who, at this point, has, you know, beaten the space pirates multiple times, defeated Ridley multiple times, and is just a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating.
And this is where I think she really comes into full force. I think this was one of the games that really established her as a badass. And I think in Universe, it's where I think she makes a name for herself because she'd beaten the space pirates once before, but she was possibly an unknown to them at this time. Here she's come back and she kicks their ass a second time. So I think that's really where she becomes a force to be reckoned with. The Hunter, exactly. The Hunter. But the Hunter makes her way through the wrecked ship, gets the gravity suit, and which allows you to move around in water freely without the speed reduction, and that's going to come in handy in the next area, which is Meridia. Meridia is one of the actually most confusing, disorienting area of the game. It is you can really get lost in it. I remember, you know, going through it on my playthrough recently, and there's just so many different paths you can take, and you're not quite sure where to go, and you're like, okay, I better come back here later and grab this, and and then somehow you end up wandering into a research facility. And I think Meridia is a great example of, again, where that environmental storytelling comes into play, and you're kind of just happen upon this. I mean, I like how you make your way through this kind of hatch thing, and you'll briefly see that research station that looks very different from the rest of Meridia and what looks like a Metroid, and you're like, huh? You end up finding your way in there, and you can kind of already get a sense as to what's happening. And the manual provides a little bit more context if you're confused, but here are these Metroids that look a little bit off and seem to be much less powerful. They're going down with a lot less trouble, and that's because the space pirates were attempting to clone Metroids. That's the Machtroids, right? So you're already kind of getting a sense for what's actually going on here in the background. The space pirates have established this research station in Meridia. There's these Machtroids. You can tell what they're trying to do. And it's just a really cool section of the game. When I was playing through it recently on Acid, that was a lot of fun, man. Just getting lost in the environment, and just sort of reading the story, interpreting it as you're playing along.
Continuing on to what you were saying, I kind of want to go back to our discussion about how she kind of established herself as the hunter, because the Prime trilogy takes place between Metroid 1 and Metroid 2. So Super Metroid hasn't even happened yet. And when you first enter the phase on mines in Metroid Prime, the first time you go through, you get to the room that has the drill at the top that you spin around with the boost ball, and there's a scan there. Excuse me. I'm burping because I'm drinking a Pepsi. It's delicious.
Sexy.
There's a research, or not a research scan at the top, but there's a scan that says security alert, all stations. The bioform Samus Aran has made landfall on Talon 4. The hunter is among us. And so one encounter with the space pirates and her whipping their asses let them know. This is why I'm going back to my thought process that the space pirates are actually a formidable force of intelligence, because they understand that Samus blowing through Zebes, killing the Metroids, disabling Mother Brain, and blowing up their station, let them know this woman is this bioform is a force to be reckoned with, and we need to take her out on sight. And so she establishes very early on that she is a dominant force working with the Galactic Federation. So it didn't take very long for the space pirates to realize that this bitch means business. So we need to be on alert. And you get insanely powerful in Metroid Prime, and you just completely wipe out all of their forces. You kill the Omega Pirate, several elite pirates. You destroy an experimental elite pirate in the beginning of the phase on mines to collect an artifact that the space pirates, with all of their experiments and mining and everything that they're doing, they're trying to get to the Chozo artifacts so that they can destroy them or use them to get into the impact crater. And Samus just walks through and picks them all up and destroys everything.
Yeah. So
when Super Metroid takes place, Ridley and the pirates are fully aware that if she shows up, there's a good chance they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So at this point, they are mortified of this woman. And I mean, in Super Metroid, she once again takes out all the space pirates, destroys Ridley, goes back, destroys Mother Brain again, and we'll talk about the end of Super Metroid here in a second, but everything that she does just absolutely obliterates them, and I think we're going to see more of that in Prime 4. I don't know if Prime 4 is going to take place after Super Metroid, because she has her ship from the end of Corruption, and in Super Metroid, she has that classic ship that we saw in Metroid Prime 1. I don't know where they're going to put this game canonically, but it looks like the space pirates are at this point scrambling and dying.
Yeah.
Because in Super Metro in Fusion, you see that the space pirates have almost completely dwindled and their forces are almost completely gone. And you only see remnants of space pirates that have been copied with X-parasites. So I don't even think that you really interact with genuine space pirates.
Yeah. Actually,
throughout all of Fusion.
You brought up a good point, because I feel like I actually had forgotten about the whole like Prime trilogy. When I mentioned Samus's journey with the space pirates, I made it kind of seem like this is just the second time she's kicking their asses. But no, you're right. No, she already was established as the hunter in the Prime series. So no,
The very first game, dude.
yeah,
They knew.
she was already the hunter in Prime. They were already calling her that, I guess, after the original Metroid or Zero Mission. So then what actually we are seeing here in Super Metroid is Samus blowing away the last bit of their forces. Because I mean, like you said, after this, we start to see in Fusion, we see that the space pirates are the only ones we see are X parasites. So I don't even remember if we saw any space pirates in Dread.
I don't think so. I think the space pirates have been completely eradicated at this point, which is another reason why I think we didn't see Ridley. And I think Ridley in Dread is completely gone. And if Ridley does come back, my personal thoughts and opinions on the future of the series is Samus is going to completely cut ties with the Federation, especially after what they did to her. And they saved her life, yes, but they turned her into a Metroid, which almost got her killed on ZDR, because if Quiet Robe X hadn't shown up and restored her, she would have died on ZDR, because her touching the ship would have disabled it. She would have drained the energy from it. And so I think she's going to become an enemy of the Federation, and I think we're going to see, within the next few years, we're going to see probably the ending of this storyline.
Yeah.
So,
and I was thinking back to, in Other M, the space pirates there or Zebesians, I think is what they refer to them. Zebesians. Those I believe were actually cloned, so those weren't original Zebesians. Those were new ones. So yeah, I think Super Metroid is where we're kind of seeing her obliterate essentially the space pirates as we know them. This is kind of like their like last force. This is her really kind of finishing off the main force of their army. And I think what's really cool about that is that the Prime series, in a sense, actually kind of adds that context to Super Metroid, because that wasn't originally there. I mean, we didn't see how much she kicked their asses in that trilogy. So, yeah, actually, that's actually really cool how what was originally maybe only the second time she fought them now is actually kind of like, yeah, the last time she fought the original space pirates. Because as you mentioned, in the game since, we don't see any that are the original. I mean, it would probably just be remnants. This is the end. And I mean, this is also the end of Mother Brain, right? And we haven't seen Mother Brain come back since Super Metroid.
Yeah. And she dismantled the pirates on Aether when they set up. She dismantled the pirates on Talon 4 when they had set up there. She basically obliterated all of the pirate forces that were trying to stop her in corruption, and nothing they have done has been able to keep up with her. No. And honestly, it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm ready to see them be gone for good.
Yeah. So I guess getting into that final sequence of events, right? We fight Ridley. I mentioned before how that is the final test of your actual strength, with the Mother Brain fight being more of a cinematic boss battle. Ridley is going to be, the ultimate match of your strength. It's that showdown. And which is really cool because, at this point in the game, Samus is at her full power. You make your way through the gauntlet that is Lower Norfair, and, with that awesome music that they would later reuse for Magmore Caverns. And, you kill Ridley, not once and for all, but, one of the last times, I guess.
It happens.
And then she makes her way to what is the newly established Torian, fighting Mother Brain, and Mother Brain is actually, before we get to Mother Brain, right, we get that really incredible moment with the titular Super Metroid, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Essentially, before she gets there, the Super Metroid attacks her and almost drains her life completely before realizing, wait a second, this is Mama.
Yes.
Let me protect her. And honestly, I think that they added a lot of depth to the Super Metroid's character, because it realizes that Samus is its mother, and it stops and it flies away in almost a sad manner. And it's actually very emotional to think about. And then right as when you're facing Mother Brain, right before Mother Brain finishes you off, the Super Metroid comes in and redeems itself by saving Samus's life, restoring all of her health and weapons, and ultimately sacrificing itself. That final hyper beam shot that kills the baby Metroid is what ends its life, and the remnants of the baby Metroid basically get absorbed into Samus's suit. She gains the hyper beam and uses that to put away Mother Brain once and for all. And it's a very emotional sequence because the baby Metroid has been a part of her life since the end of Metroid 2, and they made it even more sad with Samus Returns. Because that baby Metroid was so cute, especially when you load up the game again after you've rescued it, and it's just floating in the ship next to Samus. It's so cute. And it helps you fight Proteus Ridley, too.
Yeah. And what I really like, too, is they, again, you know, this like atmospheric storytelling that they're doing where before you even find the Super Metroid, right? Well, you get to the Ridley fight, you find that the capsule's been destroyed, and you're like, holy shit, where did it go? Where is the Metroid? And you're kind of looking around for it. You get to Torian, you fight a few Metroids, and then you get to this area where this is where the buildup happens. You know, you mentioned it before, but you know, there's this whole section that has just been decimated. All these enemies just kind of crumble away before you. There was another Terizo statue that you might have had to fight, but nah, this Super Metroid is taking care of it. And that's actually really cool. And you see it fight. You also see it drain one of those. I think they're called side hoppers. That are motherfuckers that take like 5 super missiles to beat. So you see another one and you're like, shit. And then suddenly the Super Metroid appears, this giant fucking thing. And this is where you realize, you know, this is the Super Metroid that's referenced in the game. It's kind of a play on words here. That there's a double entendre here because this is the Metroid on the Super Nintendo, but now we actually have the namesake of the game here, and you see what that's all about, and you don't realize what it is at first, right? You just see this giant fucking Metroid which attacks Samus. There's nothing you can do. It's a scripted moment. Drains her down to 1 health, like you mentioned, and then it clicks, you know, once you realize that it left her alone. Like, oh, that's the baby. Okay,
Samus.
and that's really cool. It's a really neat way to tell the story while you're playing the game, and players, you know, will pick up on that as to what's going on. Again, you know, you're not getting this stuff fed to you. You kind of have to use your brain and figure out what's going on. And you know, and then of course that, you know, cinematic finale where Mother Brain gets that whole fucking exoskeleton. I mean, you fight Mother Brain the same way you did in the original Metroid, right? And then there's a whole second stage of the fight. Once again, a scripted section of the game where Samus is, decimated. You know, she's down on 1 leg. There's not much she can do. And then, as you mentioned, the Super Metroid comes to her rescue. To the mama, and then that, you know, just sad moment. You know, crazy how emotions can be conveyed here on a 16-bit console, and you know, they later reenacted that scene in Other M, and they did a pretty good job with that. It looks cool, but
Hold on. They did an amazing job with that. If the rest of the game was up to the same quality that opening cutscene is, it would have been one of the best Metroid games ever made.
Yeah. Although I don't like how she's not wearing the gravity suit. That was a kind of strange to me. Like, she's just wearing what looks like the Various suit, but
they treated it like the gravity feature in Other M.
Yeah, so, and her suit appears to be the same one that we see in the rest of Other M. So I guess it's kind of a retcon. I don't know. I always assumed that, you know, the suits were different between the games, and she was changing it. But you know, it's also her dream too. That's also, she's also experiencing the moment in her dreams. So if there's some details that are different, we can just imagine that she's just dreaming it that way. I mean, she's dreaming herself in her current appearance. That's a tropey way of doing those kind of dream sequences. So yeah, That's my headcanon. It looks that way because it's her dream, reenactment of the event. But yeah, no, that the way that they reenacted that scene was really beautiful because it is one of the most powerful scenes in the franchise. And I'd love to see the way that a remake of the game would do it as well.
Oh, for sure. I think that if they actually did give a good remake of the game, I think Mercury Steam would actually make the heck out of it. Let's be honest. They are so good with cinematics.
Mhm.
They did not have to go as hard as they did with Return of Samus's cinematics.
Yeah, no, shoot, yeah. I really hope that they do jump in and do Super Metroid. And Metroid Fusion obviously is a game I'd really love to see remade, as we kind of wanted to throw something together ourselves. But Super Metroid deserves to see that first, I think, because it is, one of the most beloved entries in the franchise. And I'd love to see it updated with, modern controls because, well, the floaty controls do kind of add to the charm of this original game and come to the more awkward way of switching between weapons are a part of it. I would like to see what they could do with, the modern control scheme and handling.
Yeah, honestly, I think it would be really good to see what they could do with it, just because they would add so many abilities to it as well. I think they would find a way to put the flash shift into it. They could, potentially redo some of the speed booster puzzles, make it to where the shine spark doesn't hurt Samus, and I think it would be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's speaking of the shine spark, I mean, there's even little moments in the game, where you come across the creatures that teach you how to do some of those hidden abilities, like the shine spark and the wall jump. So, again, just little bits of storytelling to be found in every nook and cranny. And that's really awesome. I really enjoy that. And even, an additional sequence at the end that's totally missable where you can free the animals if you take a detour. You probably won't think to do that on your first playthrough unless you're already aware of it. So it's a neat little detail for those who will go out of their way and just for a little pixel to fly off the screen at the end. But does that mean that the animals that they flew away in the wrecked ship? I mean, we don't really know.
It's possible.
Yeah, that always was kind of weird to me. I'm like, can they pilot their own ship? Do they have their own ship? The only thing that really makes sense maybe is that the wreck ship, which was fully powered, was able to be used to fly them off. I don't know. There's a lot of details that you can kind of piece together yourself if you're playing the game that they leave ambiguous.
It would have been really cool if at the beginning of Other M, Samus leaves that room, pets the animals, and then goes to the training space. That would have been really cool.
Oh yeah, I would have liked that too. That's actually a neat idea.
Would have been really cute, dude.
It would have been. But is there anything else that you wanted to add, Zachary?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. You get a really good showcase of the Super Nintendo's power back in the 90s, because I mean that game came out in what, 94, 91?
94.
Yeah, so like they did an excellent job showing what Samus is capable of and what the Super Nintendo is capable of. So I'm just glad that you and I got the chance to finally finish the game.
Mm-hmm. It's a game that holds up phenomenally well today. And, honestly is one of the best told stories in the franchise to this day. I guess we can kind of get into our final thoughts here on Super Metroid as a whole.
Well, I think that Super Metroid is a brilliantly done game. With floaty mechanics that kind of make the game hard, it adds a subtle charm that the Metroid series desperately needed in the early 90s. I think that they did an excellent job telling a story that, honestly, I believe carried the franchise to continue to be made to this day. I think without Super Metroid, we would not have Metroid as it is. And so I love it. I think it's a fun game, and I will definitely play it again very soon. Yeah. I'm probably thinking about doing another playthrough within the next couple months or so.
Yeah. I mean, as for me, it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Down to the last minute detail.
Okay, Homelander.
This is damn near a perfect game. Robert was watching me play this, and I was kind of talking about it to him and sort of geeking out about it, and he was like, "Yeah, man, this looks addicting. Like I can see, like why people would enjoy this." And what's funny is he was not even really aware of the Metroid franchise before I started showing it to him. Hey, Robert, say hi.
Hey, Zach, how you doing?
He said,
Hey, Robert.
Okay, you heard him.
What's up, dude?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Robert's chilling with me in Houston right now. We're having a great time, and just been watching shit. And he watched me play a little bit of Super Metroid today. We watched some videos together, and I got to reiterate, this is pretty much the standard by which games should hold themselves. This is an example. If you want to know how to design a fucking video game, I would show someone Super Metroid. It is literally one of those games that can be used as a template. It along with I believe Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I think that was the one that came out around this time. Helped establish the Metroidvania genre. I mean, both Castlevania and Metroid had games before this, but it was those two that actually fully established that genre as we know it today. As mentioned previously, it is the title that really popularized speedrunning.
Yep.
Again, speedrunning existed, but Super Metroid was one of those games that really hit home for a lot of people in that way, and it's a game that is relevant in the speed running community even today, with randomizers and mods and just really anything you can think of. It is a game that, like a lot of Metroid games, is infinitely replayable, addictive. Like Robert mentioned, you can play through this game and immediately want to play through it again, just to kind of find the ideal route or to find different ways of getting through, trying out sequence breaking. I did try my hand at it recently, and I'm really not very good at the muck ball trick. Some people make it look so easy. I got past that first bridge in Brinstar where you can do it, but then I was trying to do it again to get the ice beam early, and it I was having some difficulty with it. I couldn't manage to get it to work. I think I started like learning like muscle memorying it the wrong way, and I'm even trying it with save states, and I'm just like, I give up. But hey,
Well, I mean, I'm glad you love it, dude, because honestly, I hope that they continue to revert back to that story and just showcase just how powerful Samus really is.
Definitely. But yeah, Super Metroid, I recommend it to just about anybody that's a gamer, because it is one of those games that you need to play. It is something that truly needs to be experienced. If you're like me and it's a game that you kind of missed out on in the franchise, I think I mentioned this last time, but maybe you thought it was kind of dated and you might not pick it up as easily. This is easily the most accessible of the early Metroid games. It's a game that still, handles and looks good even today. It holds up. Yeah, I mean, what else can I say about it? It's super fucking Metroid. It is the standard by which every Metroid game and a lot of action adventure games in general would hold themselves by.
Yep, and it's a testament to how brilliant Nintendo is in their marketing and game design, because they knew even back then what kind of story they wanted to tell, and they're keeping that going. And like I said earlier, Metroid is the only Nintendo IP that really gives a focus on the story, and it's awesome.
Yeah, kind of insane that it would be, I think, 8 years before we saw another Metroid game after this.
They gave us two at one time.
They gave us two at one time. Maybe that was kind of their apology, because they were attempting to do a Metroid 64, but I guess that had kind of a troubled development. Ended up becoming Metroid Prime, and then they went ahead and threw in Fusion just to boot. So, I mean, it is a shame that we didn't see another Metroid game after this for 8 years, but they did come back. But for a lot of people, Super Metroid really is the peak of the franchise. It's where, there's just kind of a charm to it. There's a feeling to it that no other Metroid game quite captures, and it just holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts.
Yeah, I'm eager to go back through it again. I'm glad we got the chance to actually talk about it.
Hell yeah, brother.
So if you haven't played it, go play it. It's on Nintendo Switch Online. So go knock it out. Most people nowadays, especially Nintendo fans, have a Switch. So go load it up. And there's actually a Life of Luxury mode if the game's a bit difficult for you.
Yeah. There's like a special version of the game on Nintendo Switch Online too, which like throws you in with like almost all of the abilities in the game, so you can kind of get a feeling for how powerful Samus can be. I never really fucked too much with those like special games, but I mean, yeah, if you wanted to know like how powered up she can get, there it is. So yeah, go check this out. Zachary, is there anything that you would like to promote as far as streaming goes, or if you've got anything coming up with the Omega Metroid?
Well, right now there's not really much going on, but I'm also running with the Omega Metroid website, omegametroid.com. I help with their podcasting team, and I'm actually working on clipping and uploading their entire Omega Metroid marathon to YouTube. So within the next couple of weeks, be on the lookout for that. Come check it out. And other than that, man, that's it.
Hell yeah, brother. So as far as our schedule goes, we're still playing catch up, but here we are. Super Metroid Part 2 finally out. Episode 50 is complete. So glad to be doing this with you, man. I was actually telling Robert about how you and I started podcasting together, how we bonded over the Metroid franchise, and that's kind of what brought us together as you're one of my best friends, dude.
Hell yeah, dude. Oh yeah. We're going to keep the drive alive, and we got Metroid Prime 4 coming out this year, and hopefully Metroid 6. That'd be dope.
Yeah. But, yeah, anyway, I was going to mention, so we got the Super Metroid Part 2 out. Stay tuned for our next episode on Hogwarts Legacy. We'll be doing a 2-part episode. That was Megan's pick for the show. Yes, J.K. Rowling is a TERF, but those devs worked hard on that game, and I actually it's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it. I would also like to cover Avowed very soon here. We should get a game launch review out on that. I've been playing just a little bit of it, and I'm impressed so far. It's a fun game. I think it's kind of unfair to compare it to something like Skyrim. So I think you can kind of just take it for what it is, and I'm excited to play more of it. I would also like to get out a bonus round on Doom Eternal. We covered Doom 2016 early this year, and Doom: The Dark Ages is coming out. So I would like to cover that other game, so we can cover the trilogy proper of the new Doom era, and. That's pretty much what's coming up next. That's what we had planned for our February content. So hopefully we can get caught up on that very soon and actually get into our March content, since it's March now. I believe what we actually had scheduled for this month, if we can get to it later this month, is Bushido Blade. That was Bo's pick. So we'll have a 2-part episode on that. And also this month, Assassin's Creed Shadows is coming out. So, I'm definitely going to want to cover that as a game launch review. And there's still plenty more to get through this season. Depending on, the Switch 2 announcement, we may make some changes as far as the lineup goes. We will be covering, and I've already taken off for the day, but we will be covering the announcement. And in some form or way, I mean, we kind of missed our opportunity on the initial trailer, but when they do the full event later in April, we're gonna cover that, and super excited to see the Switch 2 and Metroid Prime 4 this year. Also check out Collateral Let's Play. You can find that on the Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema YouTube channels. We've kind of missed out on uploading those lately, but hopefully very soon here. I mean, actually today I want to go ahead and get that Call of Duty Saturday out, run some gun games, since they just added it to Black Ops 6, and that's my favorite. And hopefully we can get back on Phoenix Wright Wednesday here in the near future. Speaking of Collateral Cinema, go check us out as well. We should have out our episode on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 by this time. That's going to be a collab with Collateral Gaming. We missed it as an At the Movies review, so we actually recorded a full spoiler review of it. And by the time this is out, I believe that should be out. And then, of course, our second Anime Month episode after Anime Month ended on Ghost in the Shell. And then we're also going to be covering the California Kid and Doctor Who Day of the Doctor. So you can find Collateral Cinema and Gaming wherever you get your podcasts. I'll have links in the show notes. And hit us up on social media as well. Blue Sky, Threads, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the works. I did recently rename our podcast group on Facebook. It was Collateral Media Podcast, and I've rebranded it as simply Collateral Media because we cover more than just podcasts. We have Let's Plays, short films, and other content. So small little rebranding, but go check out the Collateral Media group on Facebook and interact with us there. And if you want to support the show, we do have a merch store on TeePublic. Get you some Collateral Media swag. You can support Collateral Media on Buy Me a Coffee. And both podcasts do have a Patreon. And sometime in the near future, I know I've been saying it for a long time, but I would really like to add some more content. So I think that's just about it.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. And oh man, the stuff that's coming up is going to be really exciting. I can't wait to see the showcase on April 2nd. It's going to be a good time, and it's going to display a lot of what the future of Collateral Gaming specifically is going to be about. So I'm really looking forward to that because I think Nintendo's going to have one of their best years.
Dude, yes.
So it's going to be a good time.
Calling it now. This is going to be a great year for Nintendo.
This is our year, Ash.
This is our time down here.
That's racist.
That's the Goonies.
I know.
I guess that's it, guys. So with all that being said, I have been Ashley Chancellor.
I have been Zachary Gia.
And this was Collateral Gaming. And we are out. Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.